Let's get to that first email. And the first email today comes to us from Sebastian Dietz, who writes, "Hey, John. As always, greetings from Germany." Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. With Henry Cavill most likely out of the DCEU and the current Bond movie officially on hold because of the director leaving, do you think there's a chance that Cavill can now steal the upcoming Bond movie from Daniel Craig? We know Craig is, or was, only lukewarm about doing this one anyway. Keep bringing on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Interesting question. Interesting question. Now, we've known for a little while we've known forever that Henry Cavill was actually the runner-up to play James Bond back when they cast Daniel Craig. It came down to Daniel Craig and Henry Cavill. And as we all know, they went with Daniel Craig, and Daniel Craig became the new James Bond, and my favorite James Bond of all time. But Henry Cavill was the runner-up. To me, he is the presumptive heir to that. I wouldn't put money on this. I don't think it's a guarantee, and I don't think it's a lock. But I think odds are that when they do announce the next James Bond, I do think it's going to be Henry Cavill. I think Henry Cavill will be our next James Bond. I don't know that for sure. I don't feel 100% certain about that, but I kind of lean that way. There are other guys still in the running, I think, Tom Hiddleston and others. But I think Henry Cavill is next up to be our Bond. The question, though, with all this stuff about maybe him not being Superman anymore, with the delay in production of Bond 25, and Daniel Craig now making a movie with Rian Johnson, does this open the door that, hey, maybe they just swap out Bonds now? Maybe now is when they swap out James Bond. I don't think it's going to happen. And here's why, for a couple of reasons. Number one, the producers worked very hard and for very long to secure Daniel Craig to be Bond for one more film. Right? Both Daniel Craig's people and the producers all worked very hard to make it possible for Daniel Craig to be Bond one more time. Also remember, all the stories and reports that Daniel Craig didn't want to be Bond anymore were completely them people taking his comments out of context. You talked about, I can't remember his exact words, but it was something like, "I'd rather have my fingernails pulled off than play Bond again." But people always left out the context. He was talking about the fact that he just finished this super long, super hard shoot of that movie, and the thoughts of doing another Bond right now were like impossible to even think of because he needed a break. He wasn't saying, "I'd never want to be James Bond again in the future." He's just thinking about it right now. That was the context. Daniel Craig hasn't been running around looking for ways to get out of playing Bond. Because of all those things put together, I do not think we're going to see Henry Cavill replace Daniel Craig in Bond 25. I think we're still going to see Daniel Craig in Bond 25, and I think it's going to be a great hurrah, a great send-off for Daniel Craig. My opinion, the best Bond of all time because it's the perfect amalgamation of the suave Roger Moore Bond and the badass Sean Connery Bond melded into one character. I've always loved the way he's portrayed that. And then I think after that, shortly after that, we will hear the proclamation that Henry Cavill will be taking on the super spy role from Daniel Craig. So that's what I think is good. But hey, anything can happen. We've seen stranger things happen. It's a really interesting thought, Sebastian. Let's keep our eyes open and see what happens. All right, let's move on to topic number